Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stands. Manchester United are back, real football is back, and is Erik ten Hag about to unveil his dream attack? He's been speaking about Bruno Fernandes playing on the right wing. We'll talk about some of the comments of ten Hag, also speaking about Onana as well. What do we expect tonight? And is this actually confident ten Hag, believing that United are finally getting a team together? Not his best team, he's still got some long-term injuries which he's updated us on, but is he finally getting a team out that he feels that can kick on? Because as I said during the international break, United, when it comes to pressing and other key factors, we're not terrible, but what we're terrible at is scoring enough goals to win games and stopping, making too many mistakes at the back. We'll talk about that. There's a little bit from Toto Wolff, who is the team principal of Mercedes in the Formula One, who works with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's spoken about that. And the latest on Paul Mitchell, we'll talk about that. But it is a match day. Get ready to rumble. 8 o'clock kickoff tonight. We'll be live from about 6:30 with countdown to kickoff. Obviously, I'll be live from 7:30. I've got a few watch-alongs today as well. I'm doing Everton against Liverpool at 12:30 on That's Football, and also Chelsea-Arsenal. So a massive day of football. Don't take a look at tomorrow. It's a bit shit. But today, it's brilliant to have football back, and we're very excited. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Has Erik ten Hag got his dream attack then? Let's start off with that. But I also want to talk about what he said about Bruno Fernandes. So this is what he said about Bruno Fernandes. Ten Hag on Bruno changing role. As a squad, in periods of the season, you have to deal with certain situations like injuries at fullback and right wing in the last couple of games. We have to find solutions. Bruno is a very good right winger as well. He has the freedom there, playing not typical but coming inside more, the 10 role, and always you want to use a player like this. He's a player that creates one of the most, he creates more chances than most people in all of the games. So, look, it's interesting that I like Erik ten Hag. I want him to succeed. I felt that before the international break, especially that Brentford game, he was on thin ice. Not losing his job, but if you lose 5 out your first 8, and some of your losses are against Brentford, then you're in big trouble at Old Trafford. So, look, and Crystal Palace, you can't lose those sort of games at home. So he would have been in big trouble if it wasn't for that late escape against Brentford. But I have to say, part of the problem for me this season has been playing people out of position. Against Galatasaray, we lost because he played Amrabat at left back. I think with Rashford at the start of the season, he started the season in bad form because he was playing out of position and he's not been able to recover that form. And I think with Bruno Fernandes, he hasn't had a good season. I know he scored goal of the month last week because of the goal he scored against Burnley, but I don't think Bruno is good on the right wing. And I feel that it's one worth monitoring because Erik ten Hag has the opportunity today to play his dream attack. And I said this against Brentford. There was a lot of people talking about, oh, we've got loads of injuries. We've got a lot of injuries in the back four, or we did have. Today, you can play Reguilon at left back, Delo at right back, Varane and Lindelof, or Varane and Maguire, or Lindelof and Maguire. You can put out a strong back four today. And from the midfield forward, we were always strong. Casemiro was fit, Amrabat was fit, McTominay was fit, Eriksen was fit, Mount was fit, Bruno was fit, Mabry was fit. Up front, Rashford was fit, Garnacho was fit, Martial was fit, Højlund was fit, Antony was back, Pellistri was fit. So he's got no excuses, and he had no excuses against Brentford to sort his attack out. So it's going to be very interesting what happens over the next few weeks, because as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure you've got your dream attack, put it in the chat if you're watching live, my attack is Bruno at 10. I mean, I would pick Garnacho today, but it could be Rashford on the left, Højlund down the middle, and off the right, it's Antony. Well, that's your dream attack. Go and bloody pick it. What's this talk about Bruno on the right? Now that everybody's back, why would you put Bruno Fernandes on the right? To accommodate Mason Mount. And again, I'll go back to what I said before. I like Mason Mount. I don't get why we bought him. I don't get why we gave him the number 7 shirt. But you better be absolutely sure in your head he's going to start games for Man United. You don't spend £55 million on Mason Mount, give him the number 7 shirt and then stick him on the bench. He will start. So are we going to see Bruno shoved to the right wing, which would mean you're going to bench an £80 million player? It's fascinating to me how this is going to work. But what I will say is I've watched enough of United this season, and Bruno Fernandes is not a right winger. And I'll tell you why. This is high-end football where every player has to work within a system. And Bruno Fernandes, he's quite good on the right wing and he can tuck inside into the number 10 position. You know what happens then? The left back has a party. The modern fullback is quick and mobile, which is the same thing, and energetic and has stamina. They can go back and forth, back and forth. Bruno Fernandes is not quick enough or defensively aware enough to deal with a fullback who knows what they're doing going forward. And he's also not enough of a fear. This is the most important thing. If I'm a left back against Bruno Fernandes, I'm going to go forward because I know he can't go with me. He hasn't got the pace. He hasn't got the defensive discipline. So I'm going to go forward as much as I can anyway. But on the other hand, I'm also going to go forward because I've got no fear that if I leave him and he doesn't come with me and they break, I'll catch him up anyway because he's not quick and he's not skillful. So it is a free bus pass down that left-hand side for any team that's got a good left back. And that is why you don't put Bruno Fernandes on the right wing. It imbalances your side. You're carrying a player. You're putting a square peg in a round hole. He's got to put Bruno at 10 and he's got to play proper wingers in the team. That's what we need to do. We're putting more crosses into the box this season than we did last season by a long way. Let's get wingers in the pitch. Mark, do you reckon Rasmus starts this evening? Have him as captain in my fantasy? Well, he's in my fantasy team as well, Rory. The only thing is Martial is fit, and if he's not, if Højlund's carrying a bit of a knock, he might not start, but I'm hoping he will pick him. Michael says, match day, your beauty. Thank God the international break is rubbish. Feeling super positive today, says Michael. And Brett, welcome. Thank you for being a member for 15 months. So look, I think that we will see. We have to see Ten Hag's best front 11. We've got to look ahead as well to that Man City game. So he's got to get his best 11 out there today. It was interesting what he had to say about Onana as well. But first of all, can I just draw your attention to this? I missed this because I was out for lunch yesterday and Beth did the press conference reaction, as you'll know. So I just caught the bullet points. I didn't watch his press conference until today, this morning, before this show. So that's why I'm picking up on a couple of bits. But I couldn't believe this. I can believe it, but this is the nonsense that still gets projected on this football club after an international break. You've guessed it. Somebody in the press conference asked about Maguire being booed. And I was like, there are so many questions to ask. Like, all right, he might not answer a direct question about Sir Jim Ratcliffe, but why not ask him about the January transfer window? Why not ask him about, Newcastle and Man City and the wealth that they've got, and can United compete with that? No, let's waste a question on Harry Maguire being booed. And pray tell me, when was Harry Maguire booed in the international break? When was Harry Maguire booed wearing a Man United shirt? Like, what a waste of a fucking question, and what a stupid snowflake and question to ask. What are you even asking that question about? Why is it after every international break there has to be a question of about Harry Maguire? Let me just wake that journalist up. Harry Maguire played for Manchester United against Brentford before the international break, was not booed, got an assist for the winner that Scott McTominay scored, and most of us think he probably should start tonight. Why are you asking a question about him being booed? Are you being paid to ask these questions? I mean, what motive and what reason is there for a question like that when we are going through one of the biggest times of our recent history in the football club, and you're wasting a fucking question on something that hasn't even happened? It happened at the last international break. You asked him about it then. It hasn't happened since, and you're asking about it again. So Ten Hag had to say this: I've not heard any boos. All the fans were supportive against Brentford and the games before. I think we have a strong bond with our fans, and I don't think Harry is being booed. He doesn't deserve it. His performance against Brentford and for England was very good. So Ten Hag is basically answering a question about something that hasn't fucking happened. What a waste of time that was. Anyway, look, it has to be called out because it's nonsense. And what it does is it generates a symptom of myth. And it's not happening. And that's what Ten Hag's saying. It's not happening at Manchester United. What are you asking me a question about that for? Why are you asking that question? Fucking hell. Did you not know I was doing a press conference today? Did you not have 2 weeks to prepare for today? What in your brain made you ask a question about something that was from the last international break and hasn't happened since? Why are you wasting my time? Anyway, what one question he did get about Onana, which was quite interesting, and he said, look, he knows, and we all know, he has to do much better. And as every player is coming into the Premier League, you need an integration period. But he has to step up. Big Man United keepers like Peter Schmeichel and David De Gea started, not doomed. And Andre knows that it is good to know a little bit from history. I mean, I suppose my answer to that would be, you know, what you're referencing David De Gea for. You've just got rid of David De Gea, who was actually doing quite well. So, you know, people will always say that. But he said, look, we live in the now, we live in the future, and he has to make his future by giving better performances now, and I'm sure he will do. He showed it at Barcelona, Ajax, Inter Milan. He was in the semi-final and final of the Champions League. I'm sure he will have a great performance. I am happy with what he said about... I'm happy with what he said about Onana. I know a lot of you... In fact, let's just do a little bit of a poll here, just to grab how people are feeling on match day. Should Onana start? Let's just do that one there. A little bit of a poll, a little bit of interactive. Look, personally, I would start Onana. Maybe I'm putting myself into Ten Hag's shoes a little bit, but if I have got rid of a goalkeeper that was doing well for nothing and spent £50 million to replace him, and this club hasn't got a lot of money, I mean, put it like this. David De Gea we could have kept, used the £50 million to bring other players in like a centre-back and got Amrabat permanently. We could have literally done both those things. We didn't. And people who say you can't do that for 50 million, well, Amrabat would have cost about 20 and we've already given them 10 for the loan. So that would be another 10 and you've got him 40 left for a centre-back. So he made a big financial outlay on Onana and it has to work because that was 50 million quid that some might say we didn't need to do right now. And you can talk about debt and you can talk about the Glazers, but that's on Ten Hag. The goalkeeping decision is on Ten Hag. He spent 50 million quid where he didn't necessarily have to. So putting myself into that situation, you've got to pick Onana. You've got to stick with Onana because that decision by Ten Hag was massive. And it's one of the key... Onana and Mount have to work out. Whether I wanted to buy them or not, they have to work out. You have to pick them because you're going to be judged on those. Højlund you won't be judged on. Everybody knows that was the right signing. Amrabat you won't be judged on. Everyone knows that was the right signing. Reguilón you won't be judged on because all right, I think I would have preferred Cucurella, but look at Malacia and Shaw are both injured, so Reguilón you're not going to get judged on. But Mount and Onana, well, they're two signings where not everybody thinks that was the best use of 100 million quid. So he's got to pick Onana. He's got to stick with Onana. And the hope is that the mistakes stop. And as I said, straight after the Brentford game, all the way through the international break, this is a perfect game for Man United tonight. I'm looking forward to it. I think when you're a few days out from it and you're a couple of weeks out from it, you go, that's an open goal, that's 3 points. But it's not necessarily, the closer I get to that kickoff, I go, well, newly promoted, Saturday night, might be a bit of rain. I don't think it is going to rain tonight, but that probably goes in our favour. But if it did, could go against us. It's going to be a battle. We should be comfortably beating them. They're not that good, but it's a potential problem. And that's why it's the perfect game for Ten Hag, because if you go and win that, reminds me of the Burnley game, another 8 o'clock on a Saturday night against a newly promoted side who, look, they might huff and puff a little bit, but have they got goals in them? Whereas we know we've got a moment or two. We need an early goal. Onana is going to get us regulated, says Mr. Carroll. Nothing like a bit of positivity. 73% of you would start Onana, 27% of you wouldn't. And I'm happy about that because I think he has to start. I think he will start. And I think it's right that he does start tonight. And just a question there. Somebody said, but Onana has started a lot worse than De Gea and Schmeichel combined. Yes, he has. He has. I had this conversation with somebody about a week ago when I was in London. We were talking about the goalkeeping situation. And I said, look, you know what? De Gea was a little bit shaky at the start. Schmeichel was a little bit shaky at the start. But Onana's been like Taibbi, shaky. I mean, he's miscontrolling catches. You know, his wrists have been weak. He's making, he's not passing out from the back properly. He's kicking long balls. There's a long way for him. There's a lot for Onana to improve on. It's a horrific start, of course it is, but it can only get better, and I hope it will, and I believe it will. Kathy says, any news about Sir Jim? We will talk about him in a moment. We're in London, aren't we? Says Yamin, and Anyway, nothing like a little positivity, says, but I don't know what you're talking about there. If you're not feeling positive about Man United playing tonight, mate, then you're in the wrong place. It's great to have football back, and I think we've got a real opportunity to beat Sheffield United tonight, beat Copenhagen on Tuesday, and give the season a little bit of hope. I'm not saying we're going to qualify, and I'm not saying we're going to get top 6, but winning games can breed positivity going into that Manchester derby, and I don't want to hear any excuses tonight. I really don't. We've got no major injuries, really. Luke Shaw is a miss. Martinez is a miss. But you've got players that can play those positions. And actually, when it comes to scoring goals, we've got our best. Everybody's fit in relation to scoring goals. So tonight, I want to see some real positivity. I'm going to talk about Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Also want to talk about a couple of other bits as well. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Let me just remind you of what I said last night. I don't remember when I said it. I'd had a couple of drinks, but let me just remind you, our Christmas show is on the 11th of December. You can get your tickets through the live chat and the video description. Can't wait to see you there on the night. We'll be announcing our special guest in a couple of weeks. We've got quizzes and everything going on. But last night we announced what I'm going to call is Goldbridge's Got Talent. You could be part of the United Stand in 2024. On the afternoon of our Christmas show, we are inviting you to audition to be part of United Stand's future. If you think you've got what it takes, what an opportunity this could be to be on a channel that's approaching 2 million subscribers and has a huge worldwide audience. You could be a new presenter on the United Stand in 2024. All you've got to do to get an audition is send us a 60-second clip to that'sfootballmedia@gmail.com talking about something important to you. Keep it to 60 seconds. If you go into 2 minutes, we won't look at it because you failed the brief. Then what we're going to do is we're going to shortlist as many as it takes, as many as we think have got potential to come to Manchester on the day of the Christmas show in the afternoon and audition in front of us on a topic that we will give you to prepare for on the day. Goldbridge has got talent. We're going to film it as well. Been wanting to do this for a couple of years and really excited about doing it. So that's footballmedia@gmail.com. Send us a 60-second, whatever you want to talk about, really. Could be about the sale, could be about left back, whatever it is. And you could be invited up to Manchester to do the auditions and be on the United Stand, but also the opportunity to be part of the United Stand's future. Don't care if you are media trained, don't care if you're an actor, don't care if you're just fresh out of college, in college, 59, 29, 19, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You're welcome to get involved, and we're really excited about this, and it's going to make for some really interesting future on the United Stand. And of course, if get your tickets, come to the Christmas show, because a couple of people will be on the Christmas show from the afternoon as part of the quiz. So really excited about that. Rory says, what's the wage? Yeah, Rory, you're not. Don't bother sending anything in. If money is your god, there's no point. Jim will be watching Chelsea versus Arsenal, says Anthony. And you know what? Just before I move on, that I don't know whether Rory's joking or not, but the amount of times I've heard that in my life, from banking to doing this to working for other people, that when you offer up a massive opportunity, the first thing some people say is, what's the wage? And the first thing any boss will do is throw your application into the bin, because if that is what you're asking about, when you're going to be given massive opportunities, to go in and work somewhere which is going to be really good for your career, then you're already on the list. So just a bit of advice there. If that is what you think is the right question to ask before you've even done an interview, trust me, you'll go in the bin. Nobody wants people like that working for them. People you will get rewarded if you're good at your job. That's how it works. But nobody wants somebody who goes, what do I get paid? Or what do I do in my downtime? Or what time do I finish? Just a little bit of advice in life for you there. That's not going to get you anywhere. Nowhere. What time do I finish? What are the hours? How much am I going to earn? Rubbish questions. Absolutely rubbish questions. You've got to be enthusiastic in this life if you want to make it. It's like being a footballer, isn't it? What time does training finish? What's my wage? Although at United they probably would pay you well. Are super chatters allowed to apply? Yes, you are, Robert, and I know you're going to be there on the day, so I'd be stunned if you don't come and do something, to be honest. I'd be disappointed if Robert McCormack isn't part of the auditions, to be fair. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about Sir Jim. It is match day. This is what Toto Wolff had to say about our potential new owner. Obviously, it's Formula One weekend this weekend, and he was asked about Sir Jim Ratcliffe taking over Manchester United. And in essence, he said, look, with Jim, all the bullshit is cut out. He has the resources that are needed, and basically he will go and get the job done. Well, I mean, look, I don't have to be careful. I can say what I like. I have absolutely no trust in this deal at the moment, and that is honest. That is 100% honest, and I think a lot of people feel like that. Just because somebody's done a good job somewhere else, I suppose you could say employee of Sir Jim Ratcliffe says he's a great employer. Slow Sports News. I'm not surprised. What we're looking at here is what he's going to do to Manchester United. And you can have all the speculation and you can have all the statements you want, but until you read in fine print, this is what's going to happen at Manchester United, and then you see what's happening, because let's be honest, we've been in situations with the Glazers where they've said 3 years and we'll be back. 3 years, we can do things other clubs can only dream of. Ed Woodward. It's not like we haven't had sound bites over the last 18 years. We've had loads of them. We've had loads and loads of this is what's going to happen. We are the biggest club in the world. We're going to be the biggest club in the world. Well, look, Mercedes aren't doing that well at the moment. Where Mercedes should be over the last 3 years, they're miles behind Red Bull. So, Toto Wolff, I like Mercedes and I like Toto Wolff. But if I'm being blunt, Red Bull are wiping their arse with Mercedes and have been for 2 or 3 years, and Mercedes can't respond. So that's a bit of a comeback, isn't it? So we just got to wait and see what happens. I think I wouldn't even use the word encouraging. There are opportunities for this to work out, but there's a hell of a lot of stuff to work through. I read a lot about the sale and the prospects, and I have done for a long time, and I'm sure you have as well. And one day you see a financial expert saying that Manchester United will never get back to where they need to be because they'll never be able to overcome the damage the Glazers have done quick enough compared to how everybody else is growing. And what that means is if you have some sunflowers growing and a couple of those sunflowers are already 3 meters tall and you plant a new sunflower, how the hell is it going to get bigger than them, even if it grows fast, because they're still growing? And that's a bit like United, isn't it? The damage that the Glazers have done to that soil for that sunflower to grow is poisonous and it's dying. Now, even if Sir Jim goes, I'm going to change the soil, I'm going to get the best fertiliser and we're going to grow that sunflower, the trouble is there's 3 or 4 sunflowers way bigger than us, and how are we going to grow quick enough to go past them? So some people would say it's already too late for United, really. They can't really catch up. Others would say you can do this, this and this and we'll shoot past them. And you go, well, there's always 2 sides to a story. Let's see what happens when it, in reality. But we need to see that reality. And I think some people just want to believe a story. And I want to see the reality. I think that's what everyone else wants to do. Chief says, ordered my Christmas jumper today. Love from Australia. Legend, mate. It will be there in plenty of time for you. I would say it'll be there by the start of November. I'll be entering and would come work with the channel for free. Amazing opportunity and a real chance to give back to the channel, which has done so much for me over the years, says Richard. No, these will be paid opportunities. If people are good enough to present on the channel, everybody gets paid. That's been the case for years. I don't know how it works on other channels, but we pride ourselves on the fact that if you are in front of camera, even if you're on a forum, you do get paid, and that's the way it works. So, no issues with that. I wanted to talk about the director of football briefly. More stories last night about Paul Mitchell. I'd be stunned if Paul Mitchell doesn't come to Manchester United for a multitude of reasons, but mainly because he's got one of the better CVs to be a Manchester United sporting director or whatever you want to call it. He's got a very good CV for it. He's English, so he understands the English game. He's also been very good in recruiting from Europe. If you look at Southampton, people like Sadio Mane, and he's done it obviously at Leipzig, and he's done it at Monaco as well. And he's a free agent. He's free to take up a job. You've not got to take him from another club. So I think Paul Mitchell is very logical. It's an open goal. And it would be a positive. It's not something to be negative about. I'll be consistent and say, if Qatar had bought the club, we were going to get a new director of football as well. If anybody bought the football club, we were going to get a new director of football. It's not reinventing the wheel for Sir Jim to bring Paul Mitchell in. It's an open goal. It has to happen, and it will happen. The positive of it is, if Qatar didn't buy the club and Sir Jim didn't buy 25%, we'd still be owned by the Glazers, and I think John Murtagh and Richard Arnold would stay. So, those changes need to happen. It's always a sad thing when someone loses their job, even if it's deserved. But we live in a, I don't take any great credit in saying, or great joy in saying, John Murtagh's lost his job or Richard Arnold's going to lose his job. But they both need to lose their job. And they both need to lose the job the same way that maybe Harry Maguire needs to be sold, or Anthony Martial needs to be sold, or Jadon Sancho needs to be sold. It's never nice, but it's a competitive industry where you're trying to win. And if you're trying to win, go back to that Mercedes Formula One car. If the tyres they're using aren't quite good enough, they go in the bin for better tyres, because you're trying to win a race. I nearly said trying to win a race. We're trying to win a race, and it's the same when you're running a football club. It's not nice to sack or sell people, but we're trying to win a race. I think people forget that football, whether it's a trophy for a cup or a league or a Champions League, you're trying to win a race. Trying to win a race. And if you're trying to win a race, you've got to be ruthless and aggressive. And, Richard Arnold and John Murtagh would be first two of many I would be moving on. I mean, you think about Man United. It's not just recruitment. It's not just the board. There's fitness, which a lot of people aren't happy with. There's scouting. There's all sorts of areas within that football club that need to change. And I'd be disappointed if it didn't. Bottom line, I'd sit them in a room. I'd say, obviously, it's personal because you're going to lose your jobs. But let me just say, this is why over the last 10 years, we've failed in these numerous departments. And therefore, I need success, improvement across all those areas. I think you've had more than enough opportunities to do that. Most of you have been in these roles for years. I need to change that. Thanks for everything you've done. This is a new Manchester United. You're out. Can't judge Onana with an unsettled defence, says Republic. And sorry, don't believe that. We will be fine, says Kyle. Don't know what you don't believe, Kyle. Hard to say when you don't know the context. Just on Onana, though. I want Onana to do well, and I would pick Onana, but let's be very clear here. You're blaming Onana's performance on an unsettled defence. No, you're wrong. There's a percentage about that, but the vast majority of his mistakes have got nothing to do with an unsettled defence. The way he fell backwards on his arse on that one-on-one with Forest, that's goalkeeping. The way he let it go through his hands against Bayern Munich, that's bad goalkeeping. The goal that he let in for Brentford with a weak wrist, that's bad goalkeeping. He's making bad goalkeeping mistakes. If he's nervous because of an unsettled defence, he's not the right goalkeeper, is he? I've seen plenty of goalkeepers over the years who don't lose their concentration because the defence isn't strong in front of them. Onana's underperforming. We don't need to make excuses. He doesn't want to make excuses. He's already been out publicly. Ten Hag spoken publicly. He's not playing well. As an individual, he can do better. We've seen it for years with look at David De Gea when he was winning Player of the Year. He had a settled defence in front of him, did he? Bollocks. It was a terrible defence, and he was, like Superman. So Onana needs to solve this himself. He's making mistakes. He needs to do a lot better, but I would stick with him, definitely. We can't afford any big mistakes today, though, and I think Manchester United will end up winning this game. Anyway, only a short show this morning because there's loads going on. I'm going to be on That's Football for a 12:30 Liverpool versus Everton. I've got Chelsea Arsenal at 5:30 and then straight over here for 8 o'clock. It's a football day from the footballing gods. I'm so excited to start watching football and to round the day off with you watching Manchester United beat Sheffield United. Please, it cannot be in my day that we don't beat Sheffield United. We have to win that game. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. And don't forget, Goldbridge has got talent. United Stand's got talent, whatever you want to call it. December the 11th in Manchester on that afternoon, we're running auditions. If you want to be part of those auditions, send us a 60-second clip on something that's important to you about Manchester United to that'sfootballmedia@gmail.com, and you could be shortlisted to be part of those auditions and be part of United Stand's future. Can't wait for it. And obviously on the evening, it's the Christmas show. So get yourself your tickets. Links in the live chat, video description as well. Can't wait to see you. Speak to you in a bit.